Brand new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer just dropped, and it revealed a lot through new footage. Leaks from 3 years ago continue to be confirmed every single time something official is released, and this time was no different. In this video, we're breaking down the biggest highlights from this new trailer. Cole Young. If this trailer confirmed one thing, it's the early death of Cole Young, right? For those who haven't been following the leaks closely and only watched the 2 trailers, here's some context. Very old leaks about this movie have been getting confirmed through multiple scenes shown in the trailers. One specific point is that Cole Young, the former protagonist of the first movie, is expected to die within the first 20 minutes, making room for much more screen time for Johnny Cage, Kitana, and Shao Kahn. Cole barely appears in this trailer. In the first one, he shows up very briefly, and in this new trailer, the only scene where we see him is a reused shot, the one where he, Liu Kang, and Jax are training for the tournament. That's it. No dialogue, no focus, no spotlight. Cole Young's death actually makes sense narratively, especially considering the heavy criticism the character received from fans. The sad part is that the actor who plays him is really good. Hopefully they'll reuse him somehow, maybe by killing off Cole and bringing him back as Ermac. And honestly, having Cole Young die early at the hands of Shao Kahn is a great way to show that the villain is not messing around, while also opening space for Johnny, Sonya, Kitana, Jax, Raiden, and many others to shine, something fans have wanted since the first movie. Kung Lao returning from the dead. One brief scene shows Kung Lao's body placed on what looks like an altar, while a mysterious figure prepares for a ritual. Well, we all know exactly what that means, right? That mysterious figure is the most despicable necromancer in all the realms, Quan Chi, using dark magic to bring Kung Lao back to life, but as a corrupted version of himself, a servant, a twisted, submissive shell of the hero he once was. Full Pet Cemetery vibes. We later see Kung Lao returning in other trailer scenes, and they're beautiful by the way, including moments where he fights Liu Kang. We've known since the beginning that Quan Chi would be in the movie, and honestly, I like that they didn't fully reveal him yet, which, let's be real, pretty much confirms he'll have a small but crucial role in expanding this universe, and possibly serving as the main bridge to Mortal Kombat 3. Adenia versus Outworld. There was some earlier confusion about whether Adenia and Outworld would be treated as the same realm in this movie or not. Well, the trailer confirms that Adenia was a separate realm, which was later absorbed by Emperor Shao Kahn himself. Here's how it's explained. The trailer states that the realms no longer wage war using massive armies or large-scale invasions. This is likely a rule imposed by the Elder Gods to prevent widespread innocent bloodshed. Instead, one champion, or a few champions from each realm are chosen to fight in the Mortal Kombat tournament, which is essentially the core foundation of the games. The flashback scene shows Shao Kahn preparing to face Adenia's king, Jade, in a battle meant to be decided honorably, with the leaders fighting each other directly, just like in the games, and as hinted in the first trailer, we already know how this ends. Jade gets absolutely destroyed by the monstrous conqueror Shao Kahn. Another really cool detail worth mentioning is the visual design of Adenia and Outworld during these flashbacks. Everyone is wearing ancient, colorful armor and clothing, which looks fantastic. These flashbacks only reinforce Jade's death and set up the revenge storyline for Kitana. At this point in the timeline, Kitana is still a child, and she witnesses her father being killed in a cruel and violent way by the Emperor of Outworld. We also see what appears to be a version of Sindel alongside her daughter Kitana, and yes, she's wearing colors associated with Mileena. We already know that Sindel returns in the movie's present timeline in a corrupted form, so now it's just a matter of waiting to see how the film explores her character. Jade, playing both sides. In another scene, we see Shao Kahn's throne room, with the Emperor standing tall and imposing beside his beautiful Empress Sindel, which already tells us this takes place in the present-day timeline of the story. Shao Kahn rises to speak with Jade, who approaches while escorting someone on their knees, as if delivering a prisoner directly to the Emperor. And that prisoner is Kitana. Just like in the games, Jade will at some point be aligned with the Emperor. Jade and Kitana have always been very close, but in the games, Jade initially hesitates to side with Earthrealm's heroes, and will likely see that same internal conflict play out in the movie. What this scene suggests is that Jade will turn against the princess at some point, possibly after Kitana is captured for helping Raiden and his allies, or something along those lines. If the movie follows the core ideas from the games, Jade will eventually regret her their actions and help Kitana stand against the Emperor. And it's worth highlighting one more thing. Shao Kahn's visual design in the throne room scene looks incredible, absolutely top tier, with insane attention to detail. Raiden in trouble. Another scene shows the powerful Lord Raiden, God of Thunder, going through a serious struggle while facing the sorcerer Shang Tsung. At first glance, the scene makes it seem like the villain is draining Raiden's soul. However, in the first movie, and usually in the games as well, soul draining is typically shown with a green-colored energy, a green aura being pulled into the sorcerer. But here, what we see being drained is a white-colored energy. So what can we take from that? If you look closely, Shang Tsung is holding an amulet. It's very likely that instead of draining Raiden's soul, he's absorbing his life force or even stealing his powers in order to neutralize such a powerful enemy, the God of Thunder himself. Another interesting possibility to consider is a potential Dark Raiden storyline in the near future. In the games, across two different timelines, Raiden eventually becomes corrupted after years of endless fights, constant defeats, and the loss of close allies in battle. All of that hardens him, pushes him over the edge, and leads him to believe that the only way to protect Earthrealm is to eliminate any possible threat preemptively, a kind of unhinged protector, one who attacks first to avoid being attacked later. Honestly, a Dark Raiden in theaters, possibly as a villain in Mortal Kombat 3, would be absolutely incredible. Raiden versus Shang Tsung. In a very brief scene, we see Raiden fighting Shang Tsung, and this moment likely connects directly to the earlier scene where Shang Tsung is draining the Thunder God's energy. Shang Tsung clearly puts up a fight, landing some solid blows and powerful spells against Lord Raiden. But everything points to the sorcerer dying in this confrontation. If you pay close attention, you can actually see that Raiden kills Shang Tsung using his classic God of Thunder finishing move, which is awesome. This outcome was leaked a long time ago, and yes, it turns out to be true. But maybe this victory comes at a very high cost. What if after this fight we learn that Raiden's win led to his corruption, the beginning of a Dark Raiden arc? That would be insane. Jax versus Jade. Another really cool moment is the confrontation between Jax and Jade, who, as mentioned earlier, seems to start the story aligned with Shao Kahn's forces. The scene shows the two fighting, and it's great to see Jax using his bionic arms to punch Jade's staff, clearly expecting to smash it apart, but he's actually caught off guard when he realizes that the staff doesn't move at all, tanking the hit without even shaking. Based on what we can see in both the first and second trailers, Jade is going to have a very strong presence in the movie. She appears in multiple scenes, delivering Kitana to the Emperor, fighting in the Nether Realm, battling Kitana in what looks like a forest that could very well be the living forest, and even clashing with Jax. Jax, on the other hand, appears very briefly in both trailers, which may suggest he won't have a huge role in the story, and that actually makes sense. Beyond the many returning legacy characters, this sequel also introduces a ton of new faces. Quan Chi. Let's talk a bit more about the necromancer Quan Chi, because he does appear in the movie, face and all, but you may have missed it since it happens extremely fast. At one point in the trailer, we see Kano seemingly coming back from the dead, waking up in shock and screaming. Standing behind him are Kitana and Jade, and guess who's crouched nearby as if he just finished performing a resurrection ritual? That's right, our favorite treacherous bald guy himself. So what does this suggest? We already understand that Jade is a morally ambiguous character, and she'll likely start out on the villain side of the story, just like in the games. What may happen is that Kitana and Jade need help, and Quan Chi might be the right guy to call, fully embracing his classic two-faced role, which has always been central to the character. The real question is, why would Kitana and Jade seek out Quan Chi to resurrect the mercenary Kano? Maybe Kano knows the location of something important, something essential to the plot. After all, let's not forget, in the previous movie, Kano was the one who knew the way to Raiden's temple and led the group there. And man, Quan Chi's design looks insanely faithful. I didn't even notice him the first time I watched the trailer, but once you spot him, you can't unsee it. It looks fantastic. It really feels like Quan Chi will be lurking in the background, quietly observing, offering help here and there, and setting the stage for something much darker down the line. A classic movie reference. There's a small scene in the trailer that delivers a wonderful reference for the more attentive fans. At one point, we see Liu Kang and Sonya Blade walking through the darkness, both wearing brownish-gray monk-like robes, while Liu uses his fire powers to light the way. Honestly, I was instantly reminded of the final scenes from Mortal Kombat 1995, when Liu Kang, Kitana, and Johnny Cage wear monk robes and blend in with other monks in order to rescue Sonya, who had been kidnapped by Shang Tsung. Liu Kang. One thing that genuinely surprised me was the amount of focus Liu Kang gets in trailer number 2. We already know that this new trailer positions Johnny Cage and Kitana as the main leads. Johnny is the new protagonist, the outsider who enters the tournament without knowing what he's really getting into, and Kitana on a mission of revenge for her father's death and the destruction of her realm. So why point out Liu Kang's spotlight? Because a large portion of the leaks from last year and the year before claimed that Liu Kang would die early alongside Cole Young, specifically to establish the level of threat posed by Shao Kahn and to clear the path for Johnny to rise as the franchise's new main hero. But thankfully, this trailer shows multiple scenes of Liu Kang in action. We see him fighting his former cousin, friend, and mentor Kung Lao at The Portal, an absolutely beautiful scene with a perfect setting. There's honestly nothing to complain about there. It even looks like a fantastic fight sequence. Not gonna lie, I got really hyped. We also see Liu Kang battling Shao Kahn himself, unleashing his fire powers at full force, creating a massive wave of flames against the Emperor, and in another moment, straight up roasting the guy's face while he's on the ground. That part was incredible. Now, here's a theory I have about that fight with the Emperor. I think it happens either very early in the movie or around the midpoint, right after Shao Kahn kills Cole Young. Liu and Sonya rush in to confront him. There's a shot showing Liu and Sonya fighting Shao Kahn together, and I'm pretty sure the trailer is intentionally showing these scenes out of order. The likely sequence could be Cole gets absolutely destroyed by Shao Kahn, Liu and Sonya attack, the fight escalates, Sonya gets taken out or knocked unconscious, or maybe even killed, and then Liu, fueled by pure rage, continues alone, unleashing that massive firestorm. It's also possible the trailer is doing this on purpose, giving Liu Kang major spotlight now, only to kill him off right after. But honestly, I really hope that this is where the leaks are wrong, and that Liu Kang ends up being the warrior, or one of the warriors, who finally sends the Emperor straight to hell. Fight in the Nether Realm. We had already seen in the first trailer a large-scale fight set in the Nether Realm involving Noob Saibot and his shadow clone against Kano, Johnny, and Scorpion, along with other shots showing Jade in the same location, though not actively fighting. At the very end of this second trailer, we get confirmation that this battle will escalate into Noob facing 4 warriors. In this specific shot, we see Johnny lying on the ground. It's impossible to tell whether he's dead or just knocked out, and the 2 characters still standing are Kano and Jade, each unleashing a major special attack against Noob Saibot. This is especially interesting because it shows that at this point in the story, likely near the end of the film, Jade has fully switched sides, and Kano has as well, which is honestly pretty ironic considering that both Jade and Kano spend a large portion of the movie as villains, and Kano was a villain throughout most of the first film, and yet they're the ones left standing against the shadow entity. Funny how things come full circle. Here's my guess. The scene probably starts with Johnny, Kano, and Jade fighting Noob, and eventually they begin to lose. Johnny is likely the first to go down, and things start to look really bad. That's when Scorpion shows up to save everyone, triggering a massive all-out fight, with Hanzo once again putting Noob down for good. Kitana as the true protagonist. Once again, this second trailer strongly suggests that Kitana might actually be the true protagonist of the story, even more so than Johnny Cage. Johnny will obviously be the face of the movie, carrying much of the narrative weight. But if I had to bet, I'd say Kitana is the character who truly drives the plot forward. We repeatedly see crucial moments tied directly to our journey. She witnesses her father's death, loses her mother and her home in the process, and discovers that her closest friend is a traitor. Other scenes suggest that she begins to lead her people, possibly sparking a rebellion or uprising, which makes sense, since Shao Kahn has always been great at conquering realms, but terrible at ruling them. At the end of the trailer, there's a moment that seems to pair perfectly with another scene involving Liu Kang. The tournament is going going to happen, and I believe the story may ultimately conclude with a tag team fight, Liu Kang and Kitana joining forces to face and defeat Shao Kahn. That would also line up perfectly with the fight scenes we see involving the two of them. If I had to guess, the final battle might take place during the Mortal Kombat tournament itself, with Kitana delivering the final blow to the Emperor. The rumors pointed in that direction as well, that Kitana would be the one to kill Shao Kahn, completing her revenge arc and rightfully claiming the throne as the legitimate empress. After all, she is the princess. There's really no argument there. Liu Kang could die in this final battle, which would push Kitana even further to see things through. Or, for the first time ever, this couple might actually survive and end the story together.